Do you think UFOs, the paranormal, weird history, cryptozoology, and outsider art are pretty darn cool? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to High Strangeness with your host, Steve Berg.
The video version. Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of High Strangeness. Today, I have my friend back on for a second time, Barbara Fisher. Barbara, how in the heck are you doing?
I'm doing well, except for, my joints suck. They're terrible. They give out randomly because they feel like it. So that's what happens if you have a genetic disorder with your joints. If they're loose, they're gonna just stay that way.
Does joint pain come at different times of year? Like when it's more humid, does it act up like in the movies? Like I actually don't know. Is there science behind any of that?
There is.
There is.
There's something like magical about humidity.
Yes.
It makes you miserable in every way.
It sure does.
Air pressure changes though. So when you have humidity that's a storm coming, the air pressure is going to change. And when it changes like that, then the joints all go, we're going to hurt. We're not going to love you.
Right.
We're going to be horrible. And that's what happens. It's just what happens. Both Morgana and I are like, ooh, oh, big storm. Okay.
Yeah. So when Grandpa said, my trick knee's acting up. Must be a storm coming. There was something to it.
Yeah, there was.
Okay.
There was.
I find that most of my injuries nowadays don't come from doing anything cool. It's mostly sleep related. I'll wake up and be like, my shoulder is throbbing with pain because I slept it wrong, I guess. That's not fun.
Don't sleep.
Yeah. It's dangerous, folks.
Don't sleep. Maybe get a lazy boy and just kind of,
prop yourself up. That's not bad advice.
Yeah, because sleeping obviously is bad for you.
It is. You hear that, folks? Do not do it. Barbara, before we get into the wonderful world of the strange and unusual, you, like me, really love to cook. In fact, you are actually, professional. I mean, you used to teach, cooking and lessons, and, weren't you a private chef at one point?
I was a private chef, and I worked in a restaurant for a few years as a chef as well. I've also been a line cook. Yeah, I've done all, and bartender and server. So yeah, food inside out, sideways, upside down.
And also, you're you have a lot of Indian cooking skills, which that is handy to know. Because I've seen some of the posts you've made, and we've talked, and you make from scratch sauces and all that.
Yeah. I will take shortcuts with some things. I taste it first and go, is this gonna, is this crap? Is this good? And usually if an Indian person owns the company, it's gonna be good. Yeah. Not always, but usually if it's a small, family thing, it's almost always good. But yeah, I cook Indian food. I learned it because I lied. There's no other way to put it. I lied. That's what I did. I lied. I was starting my personal chef business, and I was talking to a friend who was smoking outside of the Borders bookstore we both worked at, telling my age. Borders bookstore. Man, I miss that place.
I worked at Barnes & Noble. Hey, there we go.
See?
Competitor.
See? There we go. And this really nice Pakistani lady overheard us because both Erica and I were loud because we're loud people. And she came over after Erica went in after her cigarette, and she said, "Excuse me, I wasn't really trying to listen, but are you a personal chef?" And I said, "Well, as soon as this business license comes through," which they told me it'd be 4 to 6 weeks, then I'll be able to be a personal chef legally and collect tax and all that. And she said, "Do you know how to cook Indian food?" And I said, "Yes." And it wasn't a complete and total utter lie. I knew how to cook a couple things. I knew how to cook Rogan Gosht, and I knew how to cook chicken tikka masala, which really is British Indian. And it was made so that the British people would like it.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because it's tasty, and I've seen plenty of Indian people eat it. So yeah, everybody kind of likes it. So
I'm a huge fan. Yeah.
Yeah. So I lied, and then I said, oh yeah. I said, what's your favorite Indian restaurant here? And she said, oh, Akbar. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And she's like, here's my phone number, here's my card. When you have legality, give me a call. And I was like, I will. And then she went inside, and I was like, what the hell am I gonna do? I said, I know what I'm gonna do. That happened to be my favorite Indian restaurant in town too. So I went in, I looked at Indian cookbooks, I picked some from authors I knew were good. And then I went and told Zach, who worked in the back of the Borders, he worked in the stockroom. And I said, dude, we're going to eat Indian food at Akbar and at our house for the next month. I said, that's all we're going to eat except for breakfast. I said, I don't expect you to, give up your cereal. We can't give up Captain Crunch. Right. That's not cool. That's just, we can't do that. But everything else, I'm going to cook Indian food. And I had a friend who worked in the cafe with me, whose family was from India. He was a really nice Sikh man. And so I used him as my taste tester.
Oh.
So we would go to the restaurant. We would get the buffet, which is great because you can taste 15 different dishes.
Yep.
And there was a deal that the head waiter and I had made, which is he wouldn't tell me how to cook anything. But if I guessed the ingredients correctly, he would tell me. So that's how I learned how to taste individual spices in an Indian sauce or an Indian dish or on the surface of like grilled meat or whatever. I learned it by, okay, it tastes like there's cardamom in there, right? And so that's what we did. We ate there. I went home. I looked at the cookbooks. I replicated. I took notes from the head waiter. I didn't let him see me take notes. I would take notes as soon as we got in the car. Scribble it down as fast as possible. And to this day, I can still taste what's in most restaurant food, so I can replicate it most of the time. But yeah, man, if I got COVID and lost my taste forever, that would just blow all of that away. So that's what I did. And then when I started working for her and her husband was from Bangladesh. She was from Pakistan, and her family was from Pakistan. And her family all lived in the area. And she told me, like, the first time I cooked for all of, the dishes that she wanted for that week, I came back the next week, and she said, my mother loved the fish you did with green chutney and wanted to know the recipe, and then said, where did you find an Indian woman to cook for you? I was just like, this pasty-skinned woman is happy forever now.
You have been anointed. I mean, that
it's like,
couldn't be a better compliment. Yeah.
And so I did get to meet her mom. Her mom was really, really sweet. And she was like, you fooled me. Like, well...
I love how you kind of went about it saying, like, well, I need to send my palate to college, to Indian food college. And basically, you trained your palate, because a lot of these spices are not, Indian food is very big now. And, I'm sure you can find it everywhere, even in small towns. Like, even in Nebraska, will be like a great Indian restaurant. It's wonderful. But a lot of these spices and stuff were not common to the Western European palates,
No, not really.
So that's actually like a hard thing to do, to be able to pick out those spices.
What you do is you smell them by themselves, and then you taste them by themselves. And then one of the best methods to learn the flavors, I learned from Alice May Brock, who was the lady that Arlo Guthrie wrote Alice's Restaurant about.
Oh.
She put out a cookbook way back in the day, and I found it in a used used bookstore and bought it. I mean, I snatched it up. That was back in the 80s. It's followed me everywhere I've gone. I never lost it. It's still there. It's a sacred relic at this point. But she says take a little bit of ground meat and put a little bit of whatever spice it is you're trying to learn, and then cook it like a little tiny hamburger patty.
Okay.
And then taste it. So you'll learn how it tastes cooked. That is a very good way to learn the difference between, say, green cardamom and black cardamom. You know, black cardamom is a different species, but it is related to green cardamom. Two totally different flavors.
Interesting.
Yeah. And generally, if you toast your spices first and then grind them up, you're going to have a lot more flavor. So you just put it in a little cast iron skillet, keep it moving, just like the old way of making popcorn. Did your mom ever make popcorn on the stove and have the lid on and shake it? Well, that's the same thing, except you can't put a lid on it.
Right.
Because you need to watch and smell it. And when it starts to smell kind of like toasted nuts or whatever, and if you have mustard seeds in there, they'll start to pop like popcorn.
Okay.
Really? They just go ping and ping, and it's really cute. Then you take it off the heat and you dump it into a cold cup or bowl or whatever and let it cool down. If you leave it in the pan, it'll burn. Because once you get cast iron hot, it stays that way.
Right.
And then you grind it up when it's cool. And there you go. You have a spice mix.
Oh,
and
my God.
I'll tell you the best cookbook for Indian food now. It wasn't available back when I was learning it. It's 660 curries.
Oh, man.
And
I
when
need
you-
exactly that many.
When you look on the back of the book, his last name is Iyer. Iyer. I cannot remember his first name, but you'll turn it around and you look at him and he's this amazing man. I am so not surprised that he's like popular with the ladies, you know, and they go take his class all the time. But he's really good. I mean, his food, I've made it and it's like, yep,
Yeah.
that's what it tastes like. That's how it's supposed to be. So that's the best one to learn from if you don't have a teacher that can come to your house and cook.
I'm ordering that book.
You should.
I'm going to. I need it.
Raghavan Iyer. I'm almost 100% sure that's his name. All I have in here in this room is UFO weirdo books.
Yeah.
I don't have the cookbooks in here. I'm in the TV room.
You got to separate. You know,
Well,
they won't
yeah.
get along. They'll fight. You know.
Well, they used to be. There was. I got to a point there for a while where there was some Indian cookbooks in there with the weirdo books, and then it's a whole thing. I'm
Well, you know,
downsizing a little bit.
Barbara, I recently learned from a guest I had on not too long ago about cooking magic. Like I had a guest on named Drew, and he was talking about how his wife is into like practicing what she terms as a form of witchcraft through cooking and like cooking intentions. I had never heard of this, and I find it wonderfully fascinating. And there's even some books out there. But have you heard about this?
Oh yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about it? Because I feel like I
Okay.
don't know much, and I'm very
Okay.
curious.
Okay, so there is. I mean, you can cook well without putting yourself into it, right?
Hmm.
But it works better if you put yourself into it. Have you ever gone to somebody's house and they had a bad day? They were angry when they cooked.
Yes.
Did it taste great?
No.
See,
Yeah.
that's you have to be in that loving space.
Yeah, I've done it before, where I've made I've made something that I am normally great at making, but I'm in a bad mood. Maybe it forced me to rush, and I swear to God, I'm like, this is bland. It sucks. It's not. The textures are off.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things when I taught cooking that I taught people was that part of you goes into anything that you cook. And this is not simply a mystical thing. It is actually a practical thing. Because even though we wash our hands before we cook, please tell me you do. Everybody does. It's a good thing.
Please do.
We should do that.
Yeah.
There's still parts of you, literally physical bits of your skin that go into it. And if you believe in things like auras, some of that gets in there too.
Right.
And I swear that's why people, when they are very loving of you and they're cooking because they really want to nourish you, that's why their food's good.
Right.
And I had chefs tell me that too. It's not just some, backwoods hillbilly witchcraft thing. It's actually a thing, and they know it.
Yeah.
But they can't put it in their cookbooks because people will be like, "Oh my God, he's so weird." Although I did have somebody once tell me that all chefs are flakes. They're all weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're artists, and I do not see any sort of difference between a painter, filmmaker, musician than a chef. I really don't.
No, it's the same basic idea.
It's paintings you get to eat, so it's like, I feel like with art in general, it's like your emotional state and what you put into it is going to reflect the final outcome. Like,
yes,
I'm convinced of it. You can't convince me otherwise.
So, when you're cooking and you're mindful and you specifically put your headspace into putting that mindfulness and good emotions and good vibes into that food from yourself, it gets in there. It gets in there. I remember, this would be, I don't know, about 8 years ago now. That's about, I'm pretty sure Fox was about 10. And I found out that my uncle had sold my grandparents' farm. And it wasn't to some stranger or developer, thank God.
Right.
It's just the girl that lived across the street from them that I grew up with, right? So it's okay. But at the same time, the holly tree that my grandmother and I had planted that had sprouted up in my other grandmother's garden back in Charleston had grown to be like, I don't know, 3 times the size of the house, and it was really close to the house. And so the woman had it cut down.
Right.
So I was cooking. And Zach and our friend Dan were in the living room. And I just broke down crying. And I was making Indian food. And I had told them, but I had done it in Mr. Spock face. It was Mr. Spock face and voice because I didn't want to cry about it. But it didn't work. It started to come out, and I was browning the onions, which, by the way, is the step to make your Indian food taste like an Indian person made it. Americans don't want to brown their onions enough, but you have to. I'll explain it in a second. So I'm standing there, and I'm crying, and then I just turn off the heat, and I turn away, and they could smell something was wrong. And they came running in, and the onions, because I wasn't looking right at them because I was blowing my nose into the paper towel because I was, nobody wants that. And they were like, "Oh my God, we knew something was wrong because you burnt the onions. You haven't burnt. When was the last time you burned the onions?" And I was like, "I don't know. The holly tree's gone. Oh my God." So I had to stop and start over with fresh onions. Zach washed the pan out, and I had to think about it and, get it all out, blow my nose one more time, and wash the hands. So much washing. As this nose can produce some terrible things that new forms of life. Right. You don't even have to be Captain Kirk and go to space to find new forms of life. It lives in my sinuses. So then I went and I cooked it again, and it was okay. But I am sure that if we had gone, even sometimes you can rescue onions that get burnt. I think that if we tried to rescue them, it wouldn't have tasted right. It just wouldn't have. But they could feel it and they could smell it when they came in the room. It just didn't, And then of course I'm obviously standing over the sink weeping. She never weeps. What's happening?
That's incredible. Oh, I really love this idea, though. Like, it is kind of, it just reminds me of like any kind of art training or acting training I've ever had, where it's so similar.
Mm-hmm.
And
acting's magic. My God.
Yeah, it is. It truly is. Theater
you
is
become
magic.
a different person.
That's a transformation. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if you do it right.
And then there are the ones who, do the whole method acting thing and stay that person for a good long time, like Daniel Day-Lewis and Viggo Mortensen, who wore his Aragorn costume for like weeks.
Yeah, just stinking. Yeah, smelling in his leathers. Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, Barbara, I'll tell you what, I was thrilled the other week when I saw that you announced that one of my all-time favorite podcasts, the podcast that you created and host, 6 Degrees of John Keel, which honestly is the greatest name for a podcast of all time.
I had to use it.
First off, it's great that it came to you. It's one of those where I'm like, damn, I wish I would have thought of that. But I love your show so much. And while there is a lot of shows that discuss these topics that we're talking about today, your show has the most unique vibe. It is just for me. There is this, I'm trying to put into words, a cozy quality about it. And that is what I want when I'm talking about high strangeness. Because it is, like, I don't see the stuff like, ooh, I want to be scared, like, terrified, like, I like dark, evil things. That's not really what it is for me. It really is, like, just a cozy, like, safe feeling, like, warm blanket, hot drinks, a soup. Your show feels like that to me. And I'm not sure if that's intentional and how you do it. But also, I want to say, my God, I am so happy to hear that you're bringing it back.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, let's talk about the show and it coming back, and also I want to know, how do you create this cozy energy vibe, whatever you want to call it, because it is there, and I'm sure anyone who has listened to the show would agree with me on that.
Yeah, it is there, and some of it was definitely on purpose. The show really was born out of our friend circle getting together. I'd cook dinner, we'd eat, and then we'd have dessert and coffee, and then we'd sit up and talk.
Yes.
All night about weird stuff. And because like attracts like, I have lots of weird friends who have had lots of weird things happen to us, and we all were living in Athens where lots of weird things happen to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everywhere there's a ghost, and everywhere there's a something or a something, and if you look in the sky there's weird lights, and oh my God, and in the woods and everywhere, just strange stuff. And we just got to the point where it was just this whole vibe in this house. And I have an entity that lives in the house, and we call him Thing on the Stairs.
Thing on the Stairs.
And Thing on the Stairs likes to hear stories. I don't think it's a ghost. I think it's some sort of tricksterish kind of creature. Maybe like a hob or a house brownie or something.
Okay, what's a hob?
A hob is a hobgoblin.
Okay.
But his job is to be over near your stove or your fireplace.
Okay.
Because that's what hob is. Although hob also is a nickname for the devil. But it has to do with fire. So, but this guy, he mostly hangs out in the upstairs. So I'm pretty sure that he's not technically a hobgoblin. So I don't know what he is. But it got to the point where we all noticed him. Zach's never seen him. Zach doesn't see things. He does hear things, but he never really noticed, except through a vibe, anything having to do with Thing.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen is we'd be seated around our living room. The couch faced the stairs to the upstairs. And we didn't have the the lights on in the stairwell because why? We're not going to go up there while we're
Right.
talking. And at a certain point, when we were really getting a flow of back and forth and, theorizing and telling the stories and what do you think that was? What do you think that was? Well, this one time, well, my mom, blah, blah. I mean, it was just when it gets into that vibe, you'd see this, and this is how people have described it and how I've seen it. It's sort of an amorphous gray shimmer that comes down the stairs. There's a sound effect in my head. No,
Right.
he doesn't actually make that noise.
I would love it if he did.
That would be awesome. But no, it just sort of sits down and then it'll hover. And if you look like out of the corner of your eye, he'll take on sort of a shape of something small with a vaguely humanoid shape, sort of sitting on the hunched over on the steps with hands around the legs and looking at you, and listening. And it was hilarious. I wouldn't say anything when I saw a thing coming down. I'd just be like, oh, let's see if anybody else notices. And someone always would be like, thing's here. He just drifted down the stairs. And I was like, yeah, he did, didn't he?
Whoa.
Or there goes thing on the stairs. Or, yeah, that guy. That guy's over there. And, Zach usually was in the corner playing a guitar because that's what he would do during our round table discussions. He mostly played guitar and made a few comments. But, thing would be there. And that feel was what I wanted to recreate when I got the idea of having a podcast. Which is why when we started, the concept was to have 3 hosts. So it was like a round table.
Right.
But it didn't work out forever. That's also the way things work.
Yeah, scheduling and everything. It becomes difficult. Yeah.
Everybody was busy. So that's why that sort of thing worked. And then, it got to be for a while when I'd record stories. Every now and then, even though we didn't record the video, we didn't keep the video. We kept it so if you have 3 people talking and then a guest, you have to kind of make hand gestures at each other, I'm going to talk now, wait, me,
Yeah.
Turning down the mics and,
Right.
All the things you have to do. Every now and then, usually with Morgana and I, you would see the little Misty Dooflanky. And with me at my house, it was almost always Thing. Thing figured out, oh, they're not doing this in the living room. I'm going to have to follow wherever it is she is. And so it would sort of lurk right behind me. And maybe Thing is the bringer of the vibe. I don't know.
Right.
And I've never given him a better name. I feel bad, but he doesn't seem to not like it. And he does have a very male kind of feeling.
And is this thing, the Hob, whatever we're calling him, like it's been there since you lived in the house?
It's been there since we lived in the house. There's always been little bits and pieces of weird stuff in this house. And I talked with the lady who we bought it from, and I said, "Did you ever have anything weird in your house?" You can ask that in Athens.
Yeah.
Not
I love
all
that.
places. You can't always, go up to the former owner and go, "Hey, did you ever have anything weird happen in your house?"
Right.
And she said, "No, we never did. Do you have a problem?" And I'm like, "No, I think it followed me. That's what I figured." Or it came in from the woods, or
Right.
I don't know. But it probably came with me, and there we are. And we do have a couple of our cats who passed away, who every now and then we'll see a cat and think, "Oh, it's just wait a minute, Jeffrey's over there." It's like, oh, we do not have 2 gray cats currently, but I'm seeing 2 of them.
This brings me to a question though. Like, I mean, you said, maybe I brought it with me, or maybe it came from the woods. But like, you have had, experiences, like quite a few, your whole life, it seems like.
Hmm.
Do you think it is something that, like, there's just, and I don't know if I love the word, like, it's attached to me, because that makes it, like, and maybe it is, maybe that's just the only way to phrase it, but, like, do you think, like, there is just something other that will follow you forever? Like, like,
I think part of it is I see whatever's already there.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
part of it. But I've always had beings come and try to communicate with me. Now, it could just be I am able to see them and
Uh-huh.
communicate with them, so they come talk to me. I mean, it must be frustrating to be non-corporeal on this plane and try to notice me.
Yeah.
You know,
Over
hi,
here.
I'm right here. You just walk through me. Why?
Right,
You know, why are you not here? Yeah, it's got to be frustrating. So,
Yeah, I would think so.
yeah, when you get someone that actually notices you, they might follow you around after that. I don't know.
Right. That. I find it very fast, because, like, I'm always like, and it may be a combination of everything, but, like, there'll be times where I'm like, oh, I feel like, whatever the phenomenon is, the greater phenomenon that, just as a way to represent all the stuff, it's attached to geographical locations. And then sometimes I'm like, I start hearing stuff like, oh, no, it's actually, there's just people who can, it follows around or whatever. But I almost like how you feel like, I'm able to see what is there.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think it's just kind of like an all of the above situation where it's like, no, there is like enchanted or charged geography, and there also are people who can manifest this stuff. Like, do you think it's just
Yeah.
kind of all the above?
Yeah, it's all of the above. People hate that.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
don't like that answer. They don't like it.
right. We
Human-
want certainty,
We humans want to put everything in a box that specifically is for that thing, and
Yes.
that explains everything about whatever that thing is.
Yes.
All religions kind of want to take God, put it in a box.
Yep.
This is how God is. This box is the parameters that we use for God. There it is. Boom. We're done. And I have always said God is too big for any box.
Right.
I don't care if it's been here for 2,000 years. That box is still too little.
Yeah. To contain a god. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And if you actually believe that there's only one God, if you're actually a monotheist, well, that's an awful big God.
Yeah.
Because it keeps manifesting itself to all kinds of different people in different ways. So clearly your box, it's like trying to take somebody who's 6'7" and put them in a matchbox.
Right.
You have to squish, put it in a blender, grind it up.
Dry it out.
You can't do it. It's not possible. And people really want that certainty.
Yeah.
I'm working on writing a book, and I know when I get to the end and I'm Joshua and I give our theories as to what's going on with our subject, they're gonna hate us. Some people are just gonna be like, "Nah," and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's, if you say you know exactly what any given whatever is in the paranormal, something's gonna hop up and be the exact opposite right in front of your face.
Yep. There is a self-negating quality about it. There just is.
Yes. And so when I say all of the above, I really do mean all of the above. So far, there is no really good way for us to go, yes, and pin it down, and it's this thing. People ask me, is it one thing or is it lots of things? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. So therefore, every answer is on the table, really. Like,
Yes.
it's like,
Yes.
people are like, oh, you believe in like a flesh and blood Bigfoot? I'm like, I don't, belief is not the right word. I mean, I'm open to it. However, I am also open to the idea that Bigfoot's a lot weirder and more complex than
Yeah.
flesh and
Yeah.
blood creature, right?
Yeah.
So
I would like to have a flesh and blood Bigfoot.
sure, who
I
wouldn't?
think it would be cool.
Yeah.
However, there's an awful lot of evidence to the contrary.
Mm-hmm.
And people keep bringing evidence to the contrary. And it used to be that flesh and blood Bigfooters would just be like, no, you're making that part up.
Yep.
He is a Gigantopithecus.
Yes, relic hominid. Yeah.
He's in the woods.
Yes.
And I'm like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can't just be that. Why do people see, I don't know, Bigfoot in conjunction with lights?
Absolutely.
Why do you see Bigfoot come out of a UFO, for God's sake?
Yep.
Is that the ghost Bigfoot of the relic hominids?
Right.
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he could also be the alien's pet, or neither of them are alien or Bigfoot, but there's something else.
Yes.
So, and then people get all mad,
Right. Well, you're contradicting. I'm not contradicting myself. I'm just saying it could be an array of things. I'm open to the idea of there's something to I think there's something to Bigfoot. The stories go way back, and it's important to a lot of cultures, and I think there's something to it. That is all I can say at this point.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's all any of us can say.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, Jacques Vallée has been chasing that stuff since before I was born.
Yeah,
I am like almost exactly the age of one of his children. I can't remember which one. And he had his first weird experience. He saw a UFO that appeared to be solid hovering over his hometown. His mom saw it with him in the freaking daylight. And he's been chasing it since then. He was 15 years old. He's in his 80s now. If he hasn't, and he's so smart.
So smart.
If he hasn't figured it out, he's only figured out pieces of it, then I don't feel like I'm going to be the one to go, I have the explanation. I know. No, I don't.
Hold the beer, Jacques. Let me.
Yeah. All right, buddy, sit down. I'm going to go out there and figure it out.
I know you invented the internet, but...
Yeah, you birthed the internet.
Yeah, but...
And for that, we thank you. And for that, we curse you, too.
That's exactly right. Well, I am not going to press too hard because I know I have an idea of what the subject matter is that you and Josh are talking about.
Anomalous lights.
Yes, which I love because it does seem like that's some of the raw data behind a lot of weird stuff. Can you talk a little, can you give us a teaser? I do not want to spoil the book.
No.
I will be the first one reading it, trust me. But
I've already given a teaser that when you get to the end, you're probably going to hate us both.
That's what I want, though.
You're going to get mad.
If you're not, I feel like if someone's writing a book about these subjects and they're being honest about it, you will be left with more questions. However, the questions will be better questions.
I think that's the best that we can do.
Yes.
As Jacques Vallée has said, everybody has pieces.
Yep. Of
the data, and we have to put it together. And he didn't mean just the invisible college people that he's worked with for years. He's talking about pretty much anybody who's experienced anything, anybody who has investigated anything, anybody who's written a book, because nobody's gonna write a book about this stuff for money.
No. It doesn't exist.
No. Whitley Strieber kind of got it lucky, and so did Bud Hopkins. They were of their time, and publishing has changed since then. So it's not going to go that way pretty much ever again. But that's okay. Money's not the point. Figuring out the data is the point. Gathering the data. And that's what we're hoping to bring to it. But so over 100 books and paper, that doesn't even count the papers, but over 100 books, papers, databases, every issue of Flying Saucer News, all of that stuff has gone all together. Albert Rosales' data.
Oh, yeah.
All of this stuff. All the things. Every anomalous paranormal thing has lights. And I'm talking about stuff that, we went away from the usual suspects. We went to a database that exists in Wales, that is anomalous lights that people experienced. An ad was put into British newspaper. And this was back in I'm pretty sure it happened in the 60s. It sounds like a 60s thing, but it may have been the 70s. But this researcher wanted to know, do people see weird lights? And if they do, what's the context? So there's like over 1,000 reports in that database. We couldn't use that database. That may come in the future, but I used a book that came out of that database.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about very stiff upper lip people having strange things happen. And a lot of them did not label it, which I found interesting. When you're looking at paranormal reports, they get separated out most of the time. You get, well, that was a UFO because it was up in the sky. All right,
Mm-hmm.
it's a UFO. And then you get the Bigfoot people, and it's a cryptid because it was down in the woods, and it roared at me and came running after me, and
Right.
yeah. But we're talking about people who were sick, or they were with their dying loved one, and they didn't even call them angels either. That's the interesting thing. I expected when you're with a dying loved one, or you're very, very sick and you almost have a near-death experience, but you don't, but there's light, you have a vision of light around you, I figured somebody would say angel.
Right.
But no, not really. And there's also other religious instances. Everybody knows about Fatima,
Right. Absolutely.
but there are so many well-documented visions and apparitions of the Blessed Virgin Mary that are in modern day. Even Fatima was in the 20th century.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago. Yeah.
People think that Fatima was like, it was in the 1600s. No, it was not.
It was like 1913 or something, or 1903,
Yes.
or it was
Yes.
early. Yeah, not that long ago, really. In the grand scheme.
No, not at all. So, people are kind of weird about it. We feel like that's old history. And it's like, no, that's really not. But there's also photographic evidence in Egypt, in Zaytun, of a lady, and I've seen the photographs, standing up on the top of this round basilica roof. Like up there, and there's thousands of people down below looking right at her and taking pictures and film.
It's a crazy picture.
And it looks like a woman standing up there.
It does.
It's one of those things
It
that
is.
if I hadn't seen weird apparitions my own self, I'd be like, nah, but I
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
So what's going on up there?
Hundreds of people saw that, if not thousands. I mean, right?
Thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that one is thousands of people, and thousands of people ended up seeing the miracle of the sun in Fatima.
And there's Magigoria too, which is kind of the same thing, right?
Yep. That happened. But then you go to 19th century America with non-Catholic kids, because Catholics did come here as settlers, but not like Protestants did.
Right.
These two boys, there was a lady kind of floating above a barn on their farm. And they saw her, and the way she is described, it sounds very much like who or whatever this Blessed Virgin is.
Are you talking about the Moon Woman case?
I don't know if that's the name of it,
Well,
but
we have one
it's
in
there.
Nebraska. We have one like 45 minutes away from me. It's like in 1903. These three kids saw what they called a moon woman. And they saw like a moon-shaped object in the sky, and then it slowly came
Boy,
down.
that does sound a little
And
bit
then
like
as
it.
it came down, hovered over the barn, it was a woman. Almost
That's it.
They almost describe like the Witch of the North or East in Wizard of Oz.
Right,
You know,
except the movie hadn't been made.
Except the movie hadn't been made yet, but like it sounds exactly like that. It's Jacques Vallée is a big fan of that case, and so that's why that's why I get all excited about it. But like
that's got his fingerprints all over it. It's like, oh yes, give that to me.
Right.
You know, little kids on farms, man.
Yeah.
What is it with little kids on farms? Let's talk about this. Little kids who are sent out to watch the animals. All right.
Yeah.
So we have Joan of Arc.
Yep.
She was sent out to watch her family's goats, and she sat under a tree that was called the fairy tree.
Yes.
So maybe she could have sat under another tree, but she liked the fairy tree. And she talked to a lady up in the branches. So she's out there with the goats, sees this thing, and eventually is told, you are going to save France. Go to the king's court. Go do this thing. And then she ends up dead, and it doesn't end up well for her.
Yeah.
And then, there's the case of Juan.
Yeah. In South America. Yeah,
in South America. What was he doing? He was sent out to bring in the horses. And he sees a UFO with his dead grandfather in it. And the UFO kills his horse by accident because he ties his horse to the ladder as he goes in to dock with his grandfather. And weird stuff happens. And it's Witness to Another World is the film that's made about it.
Great movie, too.
And that is one of the ones that both Jacques and his wife, Janine, they both investigated that together. And in the film, he says, I was really happy that Janine was with us because this is a little boy. Yeah. And he was traumatized. And she was a child psychologist. And so at least she could give him amounts of comfort because his dad, when he comes back without the horses, whoops him. Because, you're supposed to go do the thing. When you live on the farm, your dad says to get the horses. That's important. You got to do it. He didn't do it. And he had this weirdo story about, Grandpa was in this flying thing that came down and there was fog and then his favorite horse died the next day or something.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then when people were, going on about Trinity, one of his most recent books, they were all like vicious. Oh no, this is he was taken in. This isn't this. I'm like, this is straight up Jacques Vallée heaven right here. We got two kids who are out looking after the cows and counting them and making sure they're all there where they left them. They're on horseback, and this thing falls from the sky, hits the ground, catches on fire.
Yep.
And they see little entities come out and burn.
Yes.
And then there's corroborating evidence, right?
Yeah.
So this is not all of these things. And then every time I am reading another book, something with kids and animals, again, Fatima, I don't want to harp on Fatima too much,
I can talk about Fatima all day.
Those kids were out with the goats and the sheep.
Yeah, they're shepherd kids, right?
They were shepherds. That was their job, because back then kids had jobs.
Yeah. I have to add to the Delphos, Kansas case, which is widely considered, according to Ted Phillips, who was the master of trace evidence, the best trace evidence case in American history. In Delphos, Kansas, 1972, Ronnie Johnson, farmer kid who was going out to I never thought about this pattern. Oh, I love this farmer.
It just happens over and over and over. Younger people, almost always technically kids, out on the farm, so they're not like right by the house, but they can be right by the barn like the Moon Woman.
Yeah.
Right? So they're near the barn, so there's animals there. And then I can't help but go, we used to give sacrifices of animals to the fairies.
Right.
Or the gods of the land. We used to do that.
Yeah.
And then what do we find in our fields along with weird lights? We find balls of light and mutilated animals that are dead with bits and pieces of them missing. I don't know why people can't put that together, and I think it's too disturbing. I think that's it. I think it's too disturbing, but what I've noticed it's not often kids who find the mutilated animals. It's almost always an adult.
Mm-hmm.
But they are shown something when the kids are shown something, they are alone with the animals. And there's a couple of reasons I can think of for that. One, who's going to believe kids?
Right.
And it's getting better now, but still most parents are going to be like, I saw a lady come down from the sky in a ball of light, and they're like, you've been watching Wizard of Oz, and stop lying to me. And,
Right.
But at the same time, that's how it happens, and it's very seldom little kids are the ones that find the dead animals.
Mm-hmm. Wow, this farm kid, God, that's like a book in itself, isn't it? Like that.
I know, right?
Yeah, maybe that's your next one. I mean, like, that is such a, because, like, it's something I'm aware of just from reading a zillion cases, but, like, I never really put that together. Like, that is so fascinating. So, like, with, light phenomenon, like, kind of like how you're saying, like, it is, like, it's almost, we define it in the geographical context from which people see it in. So if people see it in the sky, and Sarai Ascath has pointed out, it's like, look, you see it in the house, it's a ghost. You see it in the sky, it's a UFO. And I think that's,
yeah, if you see it in the woods, it's Bigfoot.
Yeah, he's right on the money.
Or some other cryptid,
Right, but it's like if we were to, I mean, like, obviously this is speculation, but like, what's the true form of all this weird stuff? And not saying it's the true form, but like, you'd be hard pressed to have a better answer than light phenomenon.
Mm-hmm. That's my feeling.
Yeah,
that is as close to an answer as anybody's gonna find in what I've written. And now Josh is gonna sneak up behind me and go, "No, they won't read it. They'll read it because there's weird crap." In there.
My God! Of course, my God! This is just a teaser.
And there's so much good weird crap and there's lots of stuff I am totally not telling because there's connections that both of us have made that nobody seems to have popped up with.
Yes. Is there any like a general ballpark release date of this? Because I cannot.
Sometime in 2026.
Oh, great! Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sometime in 2026.
What a dream team! You and Cutchin. Good Lord, this is like.
Yeah, and the way we're writing it is totally wild and strange. I have done this with my husband before, where we either write at the same time, which I haven't done with Josh, or we write separate things and then weave it together.
Yeah,
like a literary Stitch and Bitch. Like all these women are getting together and they're crocheting granny squares, right? And then they put them all together into an afghan and give it to their sick friend,
Right.
And they call those meetings Stitch and Bitches. So we Stitch and Bitch it together, and sometimes it's really weird because we're writing separately. It's like, okay, we're going to do this section, you're going to do that section, you're going to do this, but it's not whole chapters.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, this half of the chapter I'm going to take, and then this, so and it almost flows perfectly. It's really creepy and weird. It's just perfect sometimes.
I cannot wait.
So I think it's just that we've worked together enough that we know each other's writing style or thought process that we can do that. I can't think of anybody else I would even try to do that with.
Right.
Except my husband, but he's new to me.
Right. Well, you've edited a lot of, like been very close to the editing process and like kind of the Josh's writing process. I mean, you're like a muse to him in a way, like, or like,
well, but I wouldn't put it that way, but I would put that he's trusted me with his manuscripts since Ecology of Souls. I know that he first asked me to do Ecology of Souls in part because Greg Bishop said, I can't think of anybody else to do it because she's read all the things.
Yeah.
So she'll be able to catch when you're kind of like,
yeah.
No, there was a Latin phrase. And I was like, well, that's not what it says. He translated it wrong.
Right.
And, the next time I talked with him, I'm like, see, this Latin phrase, I corrected that for you. It was totally wrong. He was like, really? I looked it up. I was like, you can't believe the internet all the time. You just can't. 5 years of Latin. And, I didn't know exactly which declension we were using, because it's been 40 years since Latin, but I was still like, no, that's not the word.
That ain't it.
We just, no, we're not going to do that. And, he trusted me enough to be able to tell what he was talking about. And then he did his Them Old Ways Never Died, which is a great novel. Great novel. Go read it.
Yes,
read
folks.
It is one of those novels that has all of the weird stuff. Like, all the weird stuff he's been reading and writing about forever. And it's all in there. He's frittered it away in his head. And then he pulled those threads out and put them into this story. And the central character is very like him. And then the other central character is very like him as well. So you can, because that's what novelists do. We take out bits and pieces of ourselves and put them on the page. Let them go play. So it's a great novel. And we actually did bump heads. There was the first draft. I looked at one scene and I was like, people don't talk like that.
Right.
It was one of those times when there was a data dump.
Yeah.
And that will pull me right out. It does it with TV and film. If somebody does a data dump somewhere, I'm right out of that willing suspension of disbelief. And I'm like, nope.
Yes.
And it will put me like, I'm not going to watch your movies again, buddy. I don't know what you're doing, but that was crap.
It's a lot of exposition in one paragraph, man.
Yeah. And so he was like, but I need all that. And I'm like, I know you need all that background information, but you're going to have to figure out a way to break it up and sprinkle it through. You're going to have some before that scene, a little tiny, like one morsel in that scene, and then you're going to have more outside of that scene in the future. And he figured it out. I knew he would.
Yeah.
But he had gotten in that point where, as you write, if you're telling a story, sometimes you just want to get it all out, and have it be right. And I'm like, sometimes you overwrite when you do that.
Yeah.
And you just throw facts onto the page. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like, look at it this way, bud. Would you go into a bar you'd never been to and talk to a guy you've never seen and tell him all that stuff? Would you?
No.
No. I'm like, nobody
stop
would.
listening to you and ask you to leave the bar, please.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that dude's got to go to the hospital.
That was a lot of exposition, man. Like, that's incredible. Well,
it was a great book. It's a great book. And people
it really
should read
is.
it.
I think people are like, oh, well, I like Josh Cutchin's, nonfiction stuff. Like, I think you're going to like it. If you like his nonfiction, you'll like his fiction. I mean, he's a great writer, first off. But it's a high, strange book. It's a Fortean novel, really, like.
And it was kind of like me watching the X-Files way back in the day. Because I could be like, well, this actually happened in California and Riverside and and this actually happened in Pennsylvania, in the northern part of the state. And it got to the point where, my friends would be like, just stop. We know that just stop. God, you're annoying.
I can do that too, especially with this stuff where I'm like, well, that's actually a reference to, they'd be like, oh, God, stop.
Yes.
Let me enjoy the thing. I'm like, okay, fair.
No, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
My
fair
bad.
enough.
And it used to be when Zach and I would drive around up and down the eastern seaboard, going back and forth from Maryland to Rhode Island and New York and Massachusetts and back and forth. We'd pass places and I'd be like, guess what happened there?
Yeah.
We went up to New Hampshire and I'm like, this is where Betty and Barney Hill got abducted.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
or we'll go to West Virginia and I'm like, this is where Indrid Cold showed up.
Yes, exactly. Well, you know, that is actually the wonderful thing about being into folklore, Forteana, and all this stuff is that, like, you look at the world, not always. It's like, look, sometimes I take my weird lens off and, like, you know, have to do my taxes or we'll watch a baseball game. However, though, it's like a general rule, when I am out in the world, I do always have this like Fortean lens where it's like, you know, especially if I'm on a road trip, I'm like, oh, that's where the Zanesville UFO was. And then,
Yep.
you know, like that's where Salt Creek, there was like the, you know, Ohio Howl, you know, like
Yep.
I will always, and to me, that what a way to enchant your world. Like to me, it's a blast and I can't imagine living not like that.
Yeah. Hey, I might as well use all of this crap that's up in my head, all these most of the time useless facts, you know, that are
Right.
up there. And before I get to mention, just start spewing them randomly, and then nobody knows what I'm talking about. So if I talk about it now, people might possibly remember. Oh yeah, Burnt Pond Road. That's where the little glowing figures with the hoods on in the Hudson Valley, and there was this giant UFO that went down in a pond, and then it came back out. Okay, you know. Or that's where the Dover Demon was, that weird frog-looking, weird, demonic-looking... That one freaks me out.
Me too. And I love the case, but it is freaky.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, it's unique too. There's a lot of unique aspects about it, just what the creature looked like, and yeah, it's a good tale. It's a good tale.
Mm-hmm. It is a good one.
You know, you mentioned something earlier. I kind of wanted to make sure I jump back to, and that was that around Athens, Ohio, which is the area you live in. That there is weird stuff, and I know Ohio in general really is one of those states. Top 5 for Bigfoot sightings. I mean, classic UFO cases galore. I mean,
oh yeah,
Ohio is one of those states where I'm like, I don't know, maybe like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and California are the states I think of when I think about like the most dramatic cases going back.
Oh yeah,
you know, like it's just how Ohio is one of those states for sure. If you know about this stuff, but like in terms of like the general area that you know you live around, what are there some cases or some things that are of particular interest to you that you're like, oh, that's you know?
Okay, so we have particular folklore to Athens. One story that is, we have a ghost bison.
Oh, ghost bison.
It was the last of the forest bison alive. And he was alone because he was the last one. It's a poor herd animal, right? They're smaller than the plains bison, but they're not like wee tiny, you know. They're still big things, you know.
Yeah.
And he was actually kept a little bit north of Athens in a place that's called, now it's called Stroud's Run because it's named after him. They named him Stroud.
Oh.
So Stroud had U.S. Army guards that were from the era of the Civil War. It doesn't matter. Somebody came out and shot him anyway. You know, they came out to switch, you know, guys, and the poor thing was dead. People, though, still sometimes see a bison up in the woods near where he was shot. Interestingly, the area where he's at now, there was it was all woodlands, but they built an artificial lake there, so now we have a recreation lake up there, and people will see weird stuff around the lake. There was a murdered woman who was dumped into the lake at some point. I don't know how many people I've heard say, I've seen red lights out there. I've seen red lights over the water. I've seen red lights out in the woods. Yeah, I even had a friend of mine say, yeah, we saw these little red balls of light. And I'm like, we see those too. Yeah, we know about those. I was like, were there any other colors? And they said, no, it's just the red. We just figured it was, a flashlight or something. And I'm like, well, people do use red flashlights at night so their eyes don't get blinded by having light. So I do understand that, but there's a big difference between a flashlight and something that's a ball of light, So I would, basically, like, did it look like a ball of light? Was there a beam?
Right.
Going to some point? No, it was just in the fog and it was just floating along. I figured we just couldn't see it from the fog. I'm like, all right, that's not how that works. That's not how physics works, y'all.
No.
And the dude I was talking with is a physicist. And I'm like, all right, I know you're an astrophysicist, but you also know how light works.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah. Do you think we saw some of those weird lights you were talking about? I'm like, yeah. So we have lights all over the place here.
Yeah.
And they have been seen here since the early 19th century. There was a spiritualist family who, well, they didn't start out that way, but they were one of the first settlers in this area, and they built a house out in the woods. This is before there was a university fully built. So they had like 20 books, and that was the biggest library in the area at the time. These were educated people. They went out into the woods and built this big cabin, and they lived there. And at some point, the dad saw a spiritualist give a demonstration in Cincinnati. Or was it Pennsylvania? They were originally from Pennsylvania. It's probably Pennsylvania. And the medium said, I think you're a medium too. And so he took to talking to the spirits out in the woods by himself with his family. So, here we go. We have isolated people who are educated, but there are no TVs or radios, and they only have 20 books. So we're ripe for storytelling and things happening. The first really sad thing that happened before they really got the spiritualist stuff going was their daughter died. And they had umpteen kids, because back then that's what you did. You had umpteen kids. But this daughter was really loved, and they buried her in the woods and started seeing around that area where they buried her a blue ball of light that would float around, and it led her father through the trees straight to where she had been buried, and he was like, oh. And then he started doing spiritualist stuff, and the spirits started telling him all kinds of stuff, like, we want you to build us a house, a spirit room, and it should be this way. And then we want you to build a special table, and we want you to put musical instruments on this table. I mean, for a dude who was out in the middle of the woods in southeastern Ohio, which has never been the greatest, richest place in the world, he went to trouble. So he had these tin trumpets and whistles and drums and tambourines and all this stuff attached to this table in a very specific way. If you read Keel, he'll tell you that spirits have these very specific things that they tell their mediums, and they instruct them in very specific ways. And he said it almost always turns out to just be some tricksterish nonsense that they just do. But they started doing public seances and in that room, and the musical instruments would play themselves, and there would be little lights going around. It was a very small cabin with very few windows, and it was on the tallest point of Athens County. That's where his house and the little spirit house was. And to this day, people call it various things. Most of the time it's the spirit house, and but most people don't know where it actually is, because a private family owns the land now, so you can't just go traipsing up.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I've been there, and I'm not going to describe where it is because I don't want
sure.
people traipsing
Yeah.
up.
And don't go on private property in general, especially like in
Unless you have
rural
permission.
areas. You will get shot. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Sometimes they'll put a sign up.
Yeah.
This is Fred's. This is true story. This is Fred Smith's place. If you are close enough to read this sign, you are close enough to be shot. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the real deal, man.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Because it was Zach and I and our friend Darla, who's African American, and Darla looked at us and said, "They're looking at us up there from binoculars, going, Betty, we gonna eat good tonight.
Yeah.
They got two hippies, two long-haired hippies, and a black woman. We gonna eat good." You know, she's like, "Zach, go fast. Just get back up. Just get out."
Yeah, time to leave.
Because we're not staying here, and
Yeah.
we're not asking for directions.
No.
We did finally find where we were going, but ooh,
It's incredible.
yeah.
Well, so does like the area you live around? Do they have is Bigfoot ever reported around there, or is that like
Okay,
a
so I have a
different
funny
part?
story. I have a funny story
Ooh,
about
I
that.
love a funny story.
We do have Bigfoot sightings because we're right next to Wayne National Forest,
Mm-hmm.
which is huge, and there's been logging in there, and it used to be coal mining, and there's actually a coal mine that's on fire that has been sealed up, and it's burning underneath that land.
Whoa! Like how long? Like that's crazy.
A long time. Like
Wow.
like over 75 years, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my God.
It was a big fire. They tend to have the Bigfoot things out there. The closest town to that is Nelsonville. It's about 10 minutes away from Athens if you drive at a moderate speed, not like me. 5 minutes if you drive like me. That's where the Bigfoot sightings tend to happen. We get the UFOs and the weird lights in the woods.
Okay.
And I was so I'm pretty sure, yeah, we had Tim on, and it was Morgana and I. And he said, you know, so because it's Tim Renner, he asks the questions if he's guesting on your show because he's so used to it.
Yeah.
And he's like, so, you know, do you have big UFOs, what's going on in there? And we said, well, we usually in Athens we have the UFOs and things, and sometimes some humanoid sightings and ghosts. That's
Right.
mostly Athens. I said, but you go to Nelsonville, you get the Bigfoot. And he said, I predict that within a month you are going to get a Bigfoot sighting. You're going to get a Bigfoot story from Athens.
Okay.
So when the Bigfoot wizard says something to you, you listen, right?
Yes.
So we were like, okay. So about 3 weeks later, I'm eating dinner, and we're watching Star Trek, and I hear a beep, beep, and I look at my phone, and it's from someone who used to live in Athens, but had moved to Georgia, and she said, you know, I have to tell you this because I just listened to your episode with Tim, but I thought it was a dog man. And she said, so I was out in the woods and we were doing a photo shoot. And so she was scantily clad. And she said, we were doing this photo shoot and we were up at the Ridges, which is the asylum on the hill. So, you know, we have all that too.
Sure.
And we heard this roar that was really close to us. There was thunder. And we saw a storm was coming, and then this roar happened, and she was like, and so I put my clothes on real fast, you know.
Yeah.
And the photographer grabbed the tripod and all the things, and it started to rain. There was a storm. There was this roaring and loud howl, and she said the first thing I thought of was a dog man. You know, and she said, because it just sounded but it was so big and it was close. And she said, for a second we were like, oh, maybe it's the tornado siren. They're testing it, but no, because it would stop and start, and it had this very vocal quality that sounded like a very deep, deep voice. And I was like, I looked at when we recorded Tim, and I looked at her texts, and I called Morgana immediately, and I said, Bigfoot Wizard, right on the money. It was 3.5 weeks ago,
Wow.
and now we've got a Bigfoot in Athens County, up at the ridges, and we know who it is. We're friends with them.
You know the person is, first off, it's crazy to be, not crazy. It is statistically wild to be able to predict that a Bigfoot is going to appear in your localized area. But two, that it was someone you knew, like that.
Yeah.
Wow. So, like, did he, was he just saying that because he got a vibe? Like, obviously,
I don't know.
Like, he didn't
it
explain.
just popped out of his mouth. He does things like that, though.
Yeah. Well, he's in tune. That guy's in tune, for sure.
Oh, yeah. That's why he's called the Bigfoot Wizard. That's,
That's so great.
I'm the hedge witch. And Chad Redding is the woodsman, and Tim Renner is the wizard. We all have our roles to play in these things.
Yeah.
And he just popped out with that. I was like, what? And then we told, and this is even better. So the next time he's on the show, we tell him, and he's like, I don't even remember saying that. I'm like, well, we heard you, and we recorded you saying it, so you can't get out of it, Bigfoot Wizard. We know.
Oh my God.
We know your vibe, dude. We know your vibe.
We know your vibe, man. We know you're tuned in.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. You were almost on the day, man. You were like 4 days short of it being exactly a month.
That is wild.
And
that is so wild.
So strange. And in part, this is kind of why I called it 6 Degrees of John Keel. Because I was rereading, I believe it's Strange Creatures of Time and Space is where the first mention of this is. And he starts the very first chapter with someone you know has seen a UFO. They've driven down the road, and a light in the sky illuminates their car, and then they wake up, and they're 20 miles further down the road than they were before.
Right.
And they have no idea what happened. Another person is walking through the woods, and they see a tall, humanoid, hairy thing striding through the woods that terrifies them, and they run away screaming. And then another person sees a flying something, a bird or a pterosaur or something up in the sky that's bigger than it should be. And he said, and here's the deal, you're going to be the next one.
Yeah.
These things happen. And that struck me. He's like, and if it isn't you, it's someone you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, he said, basically, everybody has a story about this. This is the world we live in. It is not uncommon.
Yeah.
We like to say that because we like things to be normal and sane and logical. And we all love all that. But it's not.
These are things that happen to people.
And I said, I read that to Morgana, and I said, it's like 6 Degrees of John Keel. If you haven't experienced it, someone you know has experienced it.
Oh, that's
and it's gonna happen to somebody in your family, your neighborhood, somewhere. And then, of course, he talks about, later in a different book, he talks about the repeat observers, the repeat experiencers, and he's like, and something happens with that. That's a different thing.
Right.
So there's some people who maybe can see beyond the normal spectrum of visible light, so they can see other stuff, and so they repeatedly have these things happen. And I'm one of those
Well,
people.
yeah, it seems like you are. Well, if you think about it, like, just, like, trying to, like, simplify it. Like, I was trying to tell, I have a lot of weirdo friends, which is beautiful, and then I have friends who are normie friends, right, from, like,
Mm-hmm.
work and stuff. And I was kind of trying to explain. They're like, well, they're like, I'm so confused. Like, you love this stuff, but you don't have a belief system. Like, you seem skeptical. I'm like, I'm not skeptical that there's something to it, but I do I tried to explain to, like, my friend. I was like, like, dogs can hear what 10,000 decibels above humans. We
Mm-hmm.
know that's true, yet we cannot experience it.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, it's like we know there's other realities, but we can't experience it. But maybe in these other realities, there's a menagerie of monsters that exist,
Of
like
things or
of things, from John Keel books that exist. And so, like, that's kind of how I think about it at this point, I suppose,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to that. And cats can see, beyond the visible spectrum to us.
Right.
Bees and birds are amazing. They
Yeah.
can see way out of our range. They can see UV light and they can
Yes.
see IR. And so there are all of these living things in our world, like flowers and trees and plants that exude light we cannot see, but the bees and the birds can see it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I want to be able to see that. And so people have done stuff where you can see how a bird can see, and you can see the way that flowers look to a bee, and how
Right.
it basically draws them right in, because of course they pollinate so that the plant can reproduce. It's amazing.
It is
And
amazing.
so I mean, that's what I had a friend who always had like at least 5 cats,
Mm-hmm.
because her boyfriend died in a motorcycle wreck, and he came back to see her, and she said, Barbara, it wasn't misty, it wasn't like this sort of, he was kind of there, he looked like himself, like he looked like he had stepped into the room, except he walked through the door that wasn't open.
Wow.
And she said, my cat freaked out and was looking at him and growling and yowling, and the vision wouldn't speak to her. She said there were lips moving, but she couldn't hear what he was saying. And she said, I think he was just trying to say goodbye, but oh my God. She said it was terrifying. And then this cat is freaking out. And she said the cat rushed at him and clawed at him, and the cat's paw went through, and that disrupted whatever it was, and he just sort of started to sort of diminish. And she was like, she said his name, she said, go away, you're scaring me, I can't with this. She kept cats around her ever since.
Wow.
She did not want to ever see that again. She didn't
Yeah.
want to. She was like, when my grandma died, I did not want grandma coming back
Right,
and talking
right.
to me. So I have these cats,
Yeah.
so that there's always a cat in the room with me,
Uh-huh.
because they're not going to come. That way the ghosts leave me alone, because I don't want them.
Maybe my cats are warding off all the spirits too. Guys, I want them to come. I'll talk to my cats. Barbara, this has been absolutely such a joy to talk to you. You're one of my favorite people to talk to. I want to ask you one more question before I let you go. And first off, thank you so much for so much of your
This
time.
is fun. You can,
It is
if you need an
fun.
episode, you can always call me. And
Oh my God! Well, don't say that, because Barbara, tomorrow. But I will take you up on that for sure. Look, you and I were talking about before we hit record, and I'm not going to go on a political diatribe, but I think, like, no matter what political side you are on the spectrum, these are challenging and scary times. They just
Mhm.
are. Like, I don't care how you're bent. Is there any? Because I mean, like, I look up to you in a lot of ways. Like, is there anything you are doing to combat these challenging times
Yes.
on a personal level? Like, I'm obviously there's activism and stuff like that, but like, I'm looking for advice.
Okay, so everybody says self-care. Everybody says unplug for a little while.
Yeah.
Don't look at the news. Don't look at the news. Don't look.
Yeah.
Don't look.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you have to put on the Batman face. Don't look at the news. Just put the bat signal up. I'll come. That's what people are saying, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
The way Zach and I do it is we will take turns not looking at the news. So because I'm like, I used to be a reporter, so I'm like, I gotta look at the news, and our kid Fox, the first time we went through all this, was like, why are you always staring at the news? I said, I don't know when somebody's gonna do something crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
And I feel like if I miss, kid was like, very wise. Kid said, okay, but can you stop it if you see it coming?
Yeah.
So probably not. So what did your therapist say when you spun out about a possible asteroid hitting the planet?
Mm-hmm.
And she said what? She asked me if I could do anything about it. Uh-huh. And what did you say? I said no. And then what did she tell you to do? Let it go. Yeah, Ma. Let it go. So we take turns letting it go.
Yes.
I try to stay busy.
Yeah.
I try to create things.
Yes.
I try to create things every day. I'm working on this book. I'm bringing back the podcast, so I'm always talking to new people.
Mm-hmm.
And the focus is a little bit different, so it feels creative again. Because one of the things that I do want to talk about is more in depth, spiritually speaking,
Right.
the effect of what's going on.
Yeah.
In the world. So here's the deal. Everybody, after about a year of me not doing the podcast, was like, are you going to do the podcast? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I burnt out really bad, and I don't know. And Brother Richard, who people have heard on Strange Familiars.
Yep.
He and I have been in contact for a long while now, and he said, Barbara, are you going to go back to the podcast? And I said, well, I was talking with Greg Bishop about it, and I said, hey, Greg, I feel like I should, but I also feel like I should be talking about more important things than Bigfoot and ghosts and Mothman. And so I told Brother Richard what I had said, and he said to me, you know what the authoritarians fear other than mockery? And I said, He said, the divine feminine.
Oh.
He said, they fear God in the form of a woman. They fear women thinking for themselves.
Yes.
They fear women's power. He said, what we're seeing is a backlash to the rise not only of women's liberation, it's also a religious spiritual rise where we saw the goddess in various forms come back into public consciousness. And he said, that scares the patriarchy. They can't stand that, and I know you know about that.
Yeah.
So maybe you could talk about that. Can I say no to that? Can I?
No,
No.
you can't. That's a call to arms.
I was like, okay. All right, Brother Richard, you go back. I mean, I can't say no to him anyway because...
How beautifully put, though. Oh,
yeah.
Wonderful. And I think he's
really
spot
clear
on,
about
too.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing it a little bit differently. So what I would say for advice, do something creative every day, even if it's just cooking dinner.
Yeah.
Which you can always ask me about recipes and stuff. Oh yeah. My food blog is still up. I don't add to it anymore, but there's like 6 years worth of recipes up there.
You linked me to that last time, and she is not lying. Like there's a
there
lot
are
of
so many,
and they're phenomenal. I will put that a link to that in the show notes for sure.
Cool. Yeah, it's called Tigers and Strawberries for those who don't know. And if you have a question about it, just contact me. Contact Steve. He'll put you in contact with me.
I sure will.
Because I still get email every now and then from people who are like, I just read your your recipe. I looked up how to make stock, and your whole post about that step by step was great, and you have a picture of your cat in there, and it's hilarious. And I wrote that I don't even know how many years ago.
Right.
So even if it's just cooking dinner, that's not a just cooking dinner thing, especially if you put your intention into it. Check in on your neighborhood. You know, notice things. I got a little dash of the tism. Please don't get upset with the use of the tism, but
right.
Fox and I both have some of that. We can't help but notice things. Those of us who are that way. So if you are that way, use your superpowers for good and use that pattern recognition and notice things and tell people about it. That way you're doing something not just for your neighborhood, but you're doing it for the world in general. Anything you can do to make the world better. You can suggest to someone a book to read.
Right.
I'm always good for that. Because, you can write a short story. You can paint a picture. You can draw something. You can make a crazy comic strip or something. Just do a thing. Just make something and then release it into the world in some way.
That's beautiful.
We're here to make the world better than it was before we got here.
Yep.
That's I'm almost 60 now. So I'm about to turn 60 in 2 weeks. So I feel like I got to give the grandmother thing,
Right.
Even though I'm never going to be a grandmother.
Right.
Because my kids have made sure of that, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
I have cats and dogs, so I'm
That's
good.
great. Yeah, they're the best.
But it's about making the world better, and it's about loving people. Those are the two things. And when you ask me about how do you do cooking magic, you put the love in the food.
Yes.
And that makes the world better. Even if you eat all, the thing with food is people get weird. And I did this right after the COVID thing because I had to cook everything that we ate because we couldn't go out. And so I got tired of it.
I did too a little bit,
Where I was like, we're having spaghetti again. That's what we're having. Because I have no creativity in here. We're done. I don't know. And I'm just now getting back to, okay, now I remember how to do all these things.
Right.
So that's not just a thing. Even though you eat all of it and it's gone and you got to wash the dishes and you got to do it again the next day, it's still something that you have contributed to.
Yes.
Even if it's just for your family. But
that's big though. That's big.
Yeah.
And then and then they take it out in the world and hopefully it can be exponential, it's like gremlins, you create one gremlin and all of a sudden there's 10,000.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
But that is beautiful advice. And it's practical advice. It's like I feel it's a time where people feel so helpless, but don't feel that way because that's what they want. That is what they want, and you're not helpless. So
exactly.
help people. Exactly. You can even do it through I'm
laugh.
Yeah.
Have you seen the videos out of Portland with the frogs?
Yes.
The inflatable frog guys. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is perfect.
Yes.
That is, some people will be like, that's not serious. That's exactly right.
That's exactly right.
That they don't want us to be silly. They don't want us to be happy.
They don't want us to have joy.
Show joy. No joy.
Yeah. No joy.
No more joy for you.
No more enchantment of your world. A disenchanted, joyless world is what they want.
and that's what they want. So wear the frog costume. Wear the unicorn costume.
Yes.
Go out and wiggle your butt in front of ice.
Right.
I don't care.
Right.
Whatever you do. Or just go walking down the street like that and make people laugh.
Exactly.
We need to laugh.
I agree. It's important. Barbara, you're wonderful. I'm so happy to call you a friend. Can you please tell people where they can find more of your wonderful work, and also maybe let us know when-ish we might be able to be seeing a new episode?
Okay, then the first one is already out, and it's on 6 Degrees of John.
Are you kidding me?
Did you miss it?
I missed it.
No.
How in the hell? Oh, God,
no!
my God. Well, I'll be. That's what I'm doing tonight on my little evening stroll. I mean, it's actually great
Awesome.
news. Now I'm so
It's
excited.
with Robin Lassiter.
I know the name. Oh, I do know who Robin Lassiter is.
She
Yeah.
She wrote Earth, a Love Story. It's a wonderful memoir of
Oh.
an experiencer with the weirdo things that happen and how
Yes.
she constructed a narrative into it, and it pushed her into a place where she could then take her experience and help other people.
Oh, beautiful.
So she's great.
I
You
can't
should
wait
have
to
her on the show.
I would love to. Yeah, I'm going to listen to that episode tonight.
Excellent. And the next one's coming out this Wednesday. So I
Great.
got to go listen to it and edit it and go, and make the art. So
Yeah.
as usual, I'm doing it at the last minute.
Yeah, that's the only way I know how to operate, unfortunately, is putting a lot of stress on myself.
Yeah. Like I said, there's tism and some ADD,
Yeah.
all up in here. If you ever get me when I'm on caffeine too much, I'll talk so fast. Everybody's like, "What are you talking about?" Oh my God.
I don't know what I have, but I got something. I'm an odd duck, Barbara.
Definitely.
And I'm okay with it. Finally. My friend, this has been such a joy. Thank you so much for coming on. And friends, thank you for listening to another episode of Hi Strangers. Do me a huge favor and enjoy your dinner tonight. Peace, everyone.
Take care, y'all.